for being late. I was in a doctor's appointment and didn't get out as soon as I should have, so I do apologize for my tardiness. We'll get started. Okay, this will be our second public hearing and discussion with the fiscal year 17-18 budget. We welcome everyone who's come out this afternoon. We did go through it page by page at the first hearing. What I would like to do, if there are no objections, and if anyone has, if you would like to go back through it page by page, we can. But if you would prefer, I thought maybe just call on each commissioner and let you speak your concerns with the budget. Give the city manager maybe an opportunity first to talk about any changes or deletions, whatever he's made to the budget. And then once we're completed with all of our questions and concerns, then give the public an opportunity to ask questions and discuss. Is that agreeable with everyone? Okay. Mr. White, I'll let you take the floor.
Okay. As promised, I went through the budget with Beverly. She and I went through it extensively, trying to true up some accounts, looking at, of course, past history, and also looking at what we had spent this year and a lot of these different accounts within each department. We tried to true the numbers up as closely as what we could, knowing what the department heads was planning for each, so that we gained a lot of cash back in that scenario. The other big item in here is splash pads. That's something I did not put in the first one. However, I did put them in this one, so that'll be a new item for y'all to discuss. I have found I've done some research on splash pads. I think we can get them a little cheaper than what we initially was thinking. And it could be an opportunity we could use some impact fees and other items to help assist in paying for these. So with that is the biggest two things that I did with the budget. I'll be glad to go through it like we did extensively last time, but there's not a lot of changes other than that.
And if I could follow up, Mr. White did mention to me his addition of the splash pads. I don't know if he's discussed them with any of the other commissioners. As many of you know, at this time about last year, I had brought up that I would like to begin a private fundraising activity for a splash pad at Kensaw Park, which I have been doing, and we have raised some funds, although not nearly enough, but I'm still engaged and I still want to continue to be engaged with that process, even if this is approved. But Mr. White pointed out to me that I know Commissioner Friend had long wanted a splash pad over at the sports complex, and he found, and in all fairness, our city engineer had asked me about this a while back as well, Chris Forehand, about the possibility of impact funds, and I said, well, but I brought up that I wanted to do a private fundraising event for this splash pad. But upon looking at that, they are leisure services impact funds. They can't be used for building roads or streets or culverts or that kind of thing. It has to be used for something for leisure services or our children. So I'm open to either way. I mean, if the commission, because I did come before the commission saying that, yes, I do want to do this private fundraising. And if you decide to go forward with it, I will be contacting everyone who's contributed to see if they're willing for us to continue as a partnership. And I believe they will be, because it'll just mean the park can grow as we go. It'll still be used for the same thing. So those are my comments on it. And at this point, I'll just let whoever would like to speak next on any issue, this one or whatever on the budget.
Sure. I'll go, Mayor, since we're talking about splash pad.
Sure.
I also did a little more research as well, or ongoing research, really. And the closest splash pad that I've had the opportunity to look at and talk with the folks is over in Fairhope, Alabama. It's about a 1,500 square foot splash pad. I just brought a couple of pictures to pass around.
Awesome.
It's actually not as big as I'd like for the sports complex, but we kind of got to start somewhere. Also had forwarded to me from the contractor that built that one the actual plans for the splash pad, and I've passed those on to the city engineer. Again, this is just an example. It's not a suggestion that this is actually what we do. It's just we can pass that around as well. We just to kind of put something to the actual number that we're requesting in the budget. This one, I think, was built for around 150,000 or less, so that kind of gives us an idea, what we're looking at. And, of course, this particular one in Fairhope is, there's two things that I'd like to point out. One, it's kind of a theme of Porter Park, not necessarily, but so I'm not suggesting any type of theme or anything. I'm just putting a pad with a number, if you will. That being said, what I did learn is there are actually two types of splash pads. There is a recirculation type splash pad, which is more like your pool, and then this particular pad is a flow-through system. So with a flow-through system, the cost can be less for maintenance because you don't have employees or such, but at the same time, they estimate about 1,000 gallons a minute, I think it is. So
That's a lot of
we talked about that with the city manager and trying to figure out which way is the best way to go. So in talking with him, I think 150 would kind of cover whichever, and the city engineer, cover whichever pad we decide to go with, and then of course then we just have to think about the maintenance and upkeep.
There is a video that we threw up. This is the idea of one raindrop sells. This can sell for about $70,000. Now it does not include your pumps and stuff, but you can watch that little video and kind of visualize what a splash pad would mean to the park.
That company is great. I love that.
Yeah, and that's the same one that did Fairhope, yeah.
This kind of splash pad would not require a lifeguard, correct?
That's correct. The way I understand, the only time you require lifeguards, I would not suggest that because we'd have to have someone, if it holds water, these type do not. It either recirculates it or, we'd have to filtrate it, and possibly I spoke to the city engineer about possibly, putting it into the reuse, but we'd have to make sure all the sand and everything's out. One thing we can look at with these as well is to help for them, pay them for themselves, we could rent them out for birthday parties and things of that nature. I think we'd need at least make sure the splash pads had at least the capacity of holding at least 30 kids, because you think of a big birthday party, you want to make sure all the kids are taken care of, and you want to have different things that they can do. I think with designing these, it'd be advantageous to speak with some 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and try to figure out, what they really like. So,
Lynn Haven Elementary has been working closely with me, and they have drawn all their, they want to have, they've already, by majority, they want the one at Kensall to have a marine life theme with dolphins and crabs and sharks and all that kind of thing.
That's a good, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Commissioner. I was just going to say that's a great theme for a sports complex, though, if you think
It is
about
cute.
it. But anyway.
How would you rent that out for parties, though? Because you'd have to, if it wasn't open all the time to the public, or if it was, I understand and I agree with, I think you suggested this first time, is to have a fence around it.
And that's
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
plans.
I think that's very important, to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
the animals out of it.
Yes.
of that, plus when it's not being used, which, it won't be used year-round, it'd be a
Right.
seasonal thing, but also just to keep, people off of it while it's not being used. That way it will not get damaged, possibility.
How much do you have in the budget for it?
I put 300,000 in the budget for two.
In the bid process, I'm assuming that we're going to have to do either lowest bid or RFQ, right?
Something of that nature, but I would hope if you decide to leave both in, that's totally up to y'all. If I hope we'd get a little better pricing as saying, hey, what if we buy two? And maybe even try to find anybody else that may be local cities that maybe want to go in, if we could piggyback on them.
And I would like, if it is approved, I would like to continue pursuing the fundraising. I know at least for the one, that I've been working on, because I think as we move forward with other projects in the city, that having a private and a city partnership on some of these, because everybody who's donated so far is either going to have like a paving stone or a plaque at certain levels and that kind of thing. And I think it builds a lot of community relationships with the city.
And I would suggest that if you are going to continue to do the fundraising, that it needs to be in addition to the 150. You know, and so, I mean, whatever we budget, we split between both of them, and if you raise another 15, that would accent the 150 for the park that you're raising,
Sure,
instead of offsetting.
sure. Thank you.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Do we want to address other concerns in the budget that we're looking at? Any pages we went over before that anybody has questions about?
Does this new budget reflect the insurance and everything that we just went over last time?
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am, it does. We was able to get the numbers, and just to give y'all an idea on the insurance, I think it may be a prudent time. I know it's not part of the workshop, but it is to a certain extent. We have about 151 eligible employees. In the past, we only had 97 employees who participated in insurance, which is about 64% of the employees. To date, we have 122, so we have about 81% of the employees. And then we have about 29 that waived, but majority of them have insurance through another carrier or their wife or something of that nature. So also, I'd like to tell y'all from the employees, they are very, very happy and the morale's very high with the insurance. And I was getting compliments yesterday on we were doing sandbags. So I think that's
Where do we find those figures?
they will be spread throughout based on the department.
Department,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Anyone else have concerns on any particular page? And Commissioner Tender, did that answer your question or not when you said, where would I find those figures? Because. Okay.
If we didn't have it in before, I noticed that the overall budget went from 30 to 31. And where did that money come up? Or where did it come from?
Some of it is the splash pad, Beverly.
Yeah, it's, I think a total in the general fund that was added was like I believe it was like 440, and 300 of that was a splash pad. Probably 70 was things that were carried over that we weren't going to be able to get to this year, like the furnishing and completion of this
Police
renovation for 60. And I think the long-term disability was like 43. And then there was, the rest additional was the insurance. The other insurance items like the teledoc and the FSAB and that sort of thing all went in there.
Plus going from 97 employees to 120, whatever I said a while ago, 121.
Yeah, we
That
added
was
more.
quite a few employees, so that we'd have more expenditures as far as health insurance. Is it, Bob?
So it may have stayed the same or gone down, but it went up because we have a good many more employees that are signed up for insurance.
Sorry, Mayor. With the increases, with the splash pad and these other different things, you still don't see that it's going to put us out of budget, out
No,
of
sir.
whack, out of, yeah.
No, sir, we're-
No returns, no transferring of funds, okay. That's the most
Nothing
important
from enterprise to general at all.
thing.
You know, within enterprise, we're still going to have a
Right,
lot of
that's
transfers
different.
with stormwater and, you know, from sanitation and water and wastewater.
We're still living within our means is
Yes.
the main thing.
We have about $435,000 in impact fees in leisure services, so, you know, we have quite a, that includes 75,000 we should collect this year. So,
Speaking of leisure services, we got the dog park.
yes.
If we can find $4,000, I think all of us commissioners might be happy.
What now?
If we can find $4,000 for dog amenities,
Yeah.
I think we could all sleep better. Just
I'm raising my hand to that too.
Just saying.
$4,000.
Well, around that.
Okay. I'll look
If you
into
just
that.
get with your department head of.
All right.
But, and if we couldn't find the $4,000,
We can find it.
maybe we could,
Yeah, and I agree, we need to
we could-
continue,
we
we
could
can reach out to the
contribute or
community.
help
Yeah, and
and-
I'm happy to help out, absolutely.
sure
I think the
everybody will
dog
be.
park is it's like Splash Pad, long time coming. I'm happy that we're having it. I've actually used that area as a dog park without it being a dog park, so I'm looking forward to it, so. Except for my guy's a little crazy, so.
I'm looking forward to the water park, too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
I'm-
citizens are really going to be, of course, my kids are at an age where they're not going to be able to enjoy it, or won't enjoy it, but I know they would have, 10 years ago.
and there'll be grandchildren coming, at some point.
Well, hopefully not anytime soon.
Let's go ahead and clear that up, too. We don't want, no, right. We still got 4 years, there's 5 years of college to go yet,
So am I moving ahead? Go ahead, Mrs.
No, I don't.
Commissioner Tugger?
No, you're not moving too fast. Overall, how many new employees are we adding to staff
One.
for the whole city?
Yes, ma'am.
Maria's getting that, right?
Yes, sir.
I said Maria's getting that employee.
Yeah, as I discussed last time, and this budget reflects a lot of contract help, and due to the fact that, me not being here since July, I really don't know what kind of staff we have, and I want to really look at the way we operate, and, do we have too many employees in one area and not enough in another before I start just hiring people, but we definitely we need some in several areas, but I definitely want to get my hands around it first in my head. That way I can speak knowledgeably to y'all about it. But, I seen, make sure we take care of the kids. That's a big priority for me. So that was kind of a no-brainer on that employee. We do have a few vacancies right now we're trying to fill, so, but that's the only new employee we'll be adding.
And is that Lori? Or, no, that's not. What position is that?
That's in the recreational assistant.
And we still have the HR position open, correct?
Yes, ma'am. To fill, that's one of the vacants. And we have a police and another maintenance worker, I think another public works. Okay. What now? And a fire. So we got several positions.
It'll be interesting to see this round of recruits and applicants with the insurance change.
Yes.
Yes.
Does anyone else have a budget page concern or an item that you'd like to bring up?
I have one question of y'all. How deep, the next round would be the final budget? I want to make sure that I give y'all enough information, because the budget is pretty heavy, and Beverly's done a great job with it. And, and also, the management, the staff has done good putting theirs together. But, do y'all want to go through it like we did the first time, or would you rather go through it again like this next time?
I personally think to just go through it and, the way we're doing it now and not be so tedious, I would, just want to make sure we give the public ample opportunity to ask questions and make sure they have access to the budget, and they do, so.
Okay.
And when we actually vote on this, when will that be?
Be the 26th.
Of this month?
Yes, ma'am.
Goes in effect October 1st, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's all or nothing, correct? I mean, when you vote, I'm asking because I've
Yes.
never
Yes.
had anything to do with the budget before. It's all or nothing. Okay.
I need
Now
to
is the
know.
time
I need to
This is
know.
the
to bring
time.
it up.
Yeah. This is when we talk it out.
I'm going to then open it to the public to ask questions, and then as they're asking questions, if you think of something else, we can come back again and ask more. Okay, anyone from the public have a page on the budget? Yes, Mrs. Walker?
I have a huge amount of,
Whoops, my.
I have a huge amount of questions. We went not here for the last budget workshop.
Sure. I think we have time, if,
Just like to make sure that I'm working from the same budget that you're working with. Draft on,
This is.
No, we're on tentative
so you
budget.
have a new one.
Yes, ma'am. There's a new one.
So maybe the questions I'm going to ask, they have already been
that's okay.
resolved.
That's okay.
This is Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. On page 20, it happens to pertain to the mayor and the commissioners, their compensation. Are you doubling your salaries?
That was brought into the budget by city manager, and I will say that all of us, I was probably as outspoken as anyone about this. When we look at those people who might consider becoming a commissioner or a mayor in the future, our salaries are, and they're not really salaries, they're considered, I believe, the way they're written into the charter, it's not an expense account exactly, but it doesn't use the word salary, which is even maybe something that might want to be considered in the future, but as it has to be done by referendum. But I was not opposed to this. I did bring up several things before. I said, let's consider it. That I want to make sure our lower-end employees, that we have in the budget enough money that we can compensate people adequately who are leaving the city because they're not compensated adequately, the insurance, which I think we've resolved. Panama City Beach, which is the next smallest city after us, compensates their mayor and commissioners $25,000 each, plus a $450 a month car allowance. And just looking at the calendars of the days spent, the amount of gasoline in the car, that kind of thing, we're basically commissioners at about 7,500, somewhere in that range. The mayor is about 86. And we think that is, I think that is very small for a commissioner or mayor for the number of hours and the amount of money spent. I don't know how much consensus there was. I think there was a pretty good amount of consensus at the table, and not any really opposition from the public. So that's kind of where we were on it, but you're certainly free to.
Was this brought up at a commission meeting?
It was brought up in the last budget workshop.
Okay, but not at a commission meeting?
We haven't taken it to that level yet.
I'm sorry?
We have not taken the budget to that level yet. That'll be at the next commission meeting when it becomes part of the actual agenda for approval.
Are you individually listing the doubling of your compensation as an agenda item at the next commission meeting?
I don't know that it has to be listed individually. I guess it could be, but it doesn't have to be. It's just.
So the only way that a citizen of Limit is aware that you're doubling your compensation is if they receive a copy of the budget. And they can see according to that sheet.
I have no objection to us listing it by item on the next agenda I didn't really think of it in that. It's listed as how much for all of us together, but as far as if we need to list it individually, the mayor's is slightly higher than the commission, so it's about $1,000 difference, I think.
And when
maybe
you speak about Panama City Beach being paid $25,000,
And Panama City is about the same.
does that include the insurance that Panama City Beach pays for their commissioners?
It does not.
It does not include the insurance?
No, it does not.
Because, excuse me,
Nor does it here.
I'm battling a cold here. So some of you, I'm not sure, I haven't asked for a line item, but I believe that some of you do take the insurance.
That is
And the
true.
insurance can amount to over $20,000.
That is correct.
So if you take $20,000 that the citizens of Lynn Haven are paying towards a specific commissioner's bill, and then puts, yes, maybe $6,000 or $7,000 is not a lot to you.
No, I didn't say it wasn't a lot.
I'm not pointing at you, to one of you. It's a lot to some retired people in town, especially when you add that $6,000 or $8,000 to $20,000 or $21,000. That's almost maybe a Social Security annual income for
When you add
one
the
of this-
insurance, it does make quite a considerable difference. I don't personally take the insurance.
Right. So that, I take exception to you folks doing that without most of the public knowing that you're doing that. Okay,
It can be made as public as, it's in the budget, but I can certainly, before we vote on it, I can certainly speak specifically to make sure everyone understands.
I would think that would be great.
And city manager wanted to make a comment, and I believe Commissioner Barnes has a comment as well.
Yeah, let me go first. This is a topic that comes up every single year at this time. We've been going through it for probably about 18 years or more. And as I have said, and I believe Commissioner Friend has also said, is the fact that we take our little stipend, our little check, or whatever you want to call it, we give it back to the city to pay our insurance. And in addition, we write a check for over $500.
I realize that.
Okay, so you come up with this same argument every single year.
Correct.
We have this same disagreement.
Correct?
And so I don't know what else to tell you. I will, as long as I'm on this commission, I will
Right.
continue to get the health insurance.
Right?
I will continue to pay my portion
Good.
of the health insurance.
We're happy to hear that.
I know you are retired, and you probably
Correct.
are on your husband's retirement.
Correct?
And he probably gets a nice civil service or federal government or military
It's
retirement.
doable, yes.
Okay, so, we contribute to that. So I don't see what the problem is that we contribute to our own insurance.
Right, but if you look at the my personal opinion, I know what we pay for insurance, and I would, I don't want to advise you to do anything, but I can tally up how much you pay in your insurance.
I can tell you how much I pay too.
Yes, and I think that's a huge amount of money. I think that they may be a better insurance company.
Well, and there's a huge amount of money that I also write out every single year to the city.
Yeah, but the way I look at it, when a person goes on a city commission, whether it's yours or whatever, they're doing it from their heart because
for
they want to
free.
improve their city. So some people may not want to take money because they're doing it from their heart. They want to donate it. As Mr. Shad once said, he wanted to donate his commission salary to something because he's doing it from the heart. He loves the city. So I take it exception to you doubling your,
Okay, and then that point is made then.
Okay.
Okay,
And-
thank you. And I'm not going to cut you off. Go ahead with your next question.
okay.
No,
And
I
on-
saw you looking at your watch, so I was just saying if you have
On
another
page,
question.
this has to do with the CRA and the economic development. And I'm thinking possibly it was been corrected, but to me it looks like a transposition of numbers.
I believe that's page 76. is
On
that what it is?
page 41.
41,
Oh,
sorry.
excuse me, not on 41. 41 looks correct, but it's on the CRA, which is page 79.
Okay.
Be 76 of CRA for y'all. Starts.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Walker.
Okay, so this is the CRA budget. Okay, and on the green outlined numbers, which is the original for fiscal year 17 and 18, under FICA Medicare for the employee of the CRA agency, you have $11,000. To me, it appears that $11,357 should be his pension payment, and the pension benefit that you say of $3,052 should be the FICA benefit. Because if you add up the FICA payment from the CRA and the FICA payment from the economic development, you come up with over $13,000 that he's paying for FICA. And that doesn't seem realistic to me because no other member of this city is paying that.
I'll check that and make sure that,
I called you on that, or emailed you on that when you first sent me a copy of the budget, and you said you were changing it, so for me not to worry. So I didn't. But when I got the corrected copy, I didn't see that corrected.
yeah, I think maybe I changed another item. I'll have to
Because
refresh my memory because I did correct something.
Yeah,
that-
because
that
the
does seem
economic
high.
development budget is on page 41. And it seems odd to me that the economic development FICA is $2,000 on a $32,000 salary.
Right. I was missing
And
something
the
there. I'm
FICA
sorry.
payment on a $48,000 salary is over $11,000. Doesn't make sense to me.
I will.
And I'm not a budget expert.
Yes, ma'am.
So I
I
think
will look at it.
that-
This one is a little different due to the
Yeah.
fact that
That needs
we
to
do
be looked
split
at.
Ben's time, 60% to CRA, 40% to
I
the city.
realize that, I did note that, so
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that.
So we'll just have to look at
that it-
those numbers real close to make sure we don't have an equation wrong.
Yeah, it could be because of the 40 and 60%. I could have left 100% in one of them instead of
Right, yeah.
parsing them out, so I'll
And
make
page
sure.
48?
Okay. Page 48.
I'm not quite sure what page it is on yours.
Probably is close by. Will give us the topic, and we'll go from there.
It's general fund expenditures, transfers, and other non-operating.
Okay.
This is something new that I've never seen before, indirect overhead allocation for all the enterprise funds, water, sewer, sanitation, stormwater. What exactly is that telling me?
The indirect funds is where people like myself, a lot of my time goes straight to the general fund. It's some partial of my time and some of the other staff, such as the girls up front, some of Vicky's time, some of Beverly's time. It's spread across the enterprise funds as well because we're doing work for them just like we are for the city.
And so this is,
It's across the whole board. There's certain employees, we did a spread, a percentage of like a lot of my time and other individuals' time spread completely across all those enterprise funds because it takes us to make sure those run. And that way the city's not funding the whole cost of my salary on the general
I see
side.
what you're saying, it's coming out of portions of the enterprise
Yes,
funds.
ma'am. We try to make it fair.
So am I going to find a line item, for instance, in water, a line item in sewer, a line item in sanitation, a line item in stormwater,
Is there one?
directing me to this
Yes.
total?
What page is that? You know?
I see.
Because this is new for us, we've not seen this before.
Yes, ma'am. I try to make each bucket stand on its own.
Right.
So the way I want to allocate money is to make sure that, hey, one set of employees is not taking the brunt and charging up the city a lot of funds there where we could use those funds somewhere else. Because, there's times that I'm dealing with Bobby in the water department, sanitation. So part of my time gets there and it just makes everything more equal.
And this is an idea that you brought with you? Not.
It's more of a corporate, the way, corporate business runs, so, Beverly and I discussed it, and, we're going to go more to this as we go through, as I start making some changes inside, is make sure, say, if an employee today is working, we'll say in sanitation. He's working today, he works 6 hours in sanitation, 2 hours in wastewater. So I want him to put 6 hours sanitation, 2 hours wastewater. That way, we properly accounted for all his time that day, and the proper accounts get charged.
So there are some charts hanging in these different places where these guys are keeping track of their hours for different departments?
Right now, they're taken care of through the department heads and their supervisors, turn in their time, where they're, but, I want to eventually get to less paper, so this will be done more by the computer and the employees put in their own time, just to make sure, hey, they get paid correctly.
If you look on page 57.
Page 57?
For water budget, sort of under transfers and other operating, the first item is indirect, and it's
That's where that indirect cost
equals,
needs.
yeah, so there's a sort of an expense in all of the enterprise funds.
Thank you.
Since the enterprise funds are supposed to be self-sustaining, and so they have to pay for their, human resources and that sort of purchasing and those items, their portion.
And page 63.
63?
My 63 here. No, this, Beverly just explained indirect
Okay.
allocation. I saw it on page 63, so that's
Okay.
okay. And 60, maybe I bring this up later. I'll bring it up now.
Okay.
I noticed on the agenda item, you're going to increase the enterprise funds.
The agenda item on today's meeting?
The agenda item on today's.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
And-
I was just making sure.
Funds, when in this budget for 2017-18, you're taking money out of the sanitation enterprise fund and out of the water enterprise fund, and you're giving it into the stormwater. So why raise the water and sanitation fees when you obviously don't need it? There's excess, and you're transferring it to stormwater. I realize stormwater needs it.
Right. Well, we haven't gotten to that in the commission meeting yet, but since we're in the workshop, I'll let city manager give his thoughts on it before we get to the point of
Yes,
discussing.
ma'am. Right now we have several rate studies that we're using, and if you look in the budget as well, I've asked, and we put quite a considerable amount of money in there to do several rate studies because they're out of date. I do not know if these numbers on the rate increases are totally correct, but right now that's the only modeling that I have based on our growth that we have and based on the services and the replacement of several things that I have to go on. So yes, I did put those in there to go along with the studies now, but if we can retract some later, next year, that'd be great. I have the up-to-date numbers, and I have no problem coming to the commission asking for a rate decrease. To answer your questions about transferring, I have to transfer because we was about $1.4 million short in stormwater. So we pulled in $700,000 from both of those, and that's the only way I can make it, fit. And that's one that definitely needs a study done on because we're not collecting near enough.
And how do you feel about transferring enterprise funds to the general fund?
I do not believe in transferring that way.
Okay.
That get all you? Okay. Does anyone else from the public have questions? Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, you know where I live. It's interesting. The budget is a floating item. It's always been that way. It's just like the tide in Lynn Haven, comes in and out, except when it rains. Then we have it going over the houses. Anyway, it's always been explained that. I'd like to say one thing about what you said about the salary that's in the charter. It is not salary. It is a stipend. It's called a stipend.
I think I said it wasn't a salary, did I not?
Yeah, I know you
Okay.
did.
Thank you.
But it is a stipend, and it's dedicated by the commissioners. It's not dedicated by the city manager. I noticed that the city manager was given an increase in salary over the old city manager of 50%. Then I noticed the city manager just asked you to increase your salary. Seems interesting.
Well, actually, the past city manager brought the proposal to the table.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, well,
I'm
I just
using
wanted
the
to say
title.
this one did
I'm using
not.
the title, city manager.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay? The problem is here, not problem, but you got to understand that whatever went on before, you've adopted. It's yours. You've adopted. If a city manager did this, if a commissioner did this, if he steps in it, you step in it too. Okay?
I'm not sure I'm following, but go ahead.
Right, okay. To the budget right now, I noticed over, and I'm not going to give you pages, but the total of increases that are being levied on the citizens of this town. You are citizens of this town. There are other people that are not citizens of this town that have the ear of the commissioners and the staff. You got a 1.9% increase in stormwater. You got a 2% increase in garbage. You got a 3.9% increase in water and sewer. You got a 3.18 CRA charge. You have to understand this. CRA does not go for the whole city. There is a certain specific area that pays this. Remember that. So the whole city has nothing to do with the CRA. It's that particular area. That gives you a 9.26% increase, coupled with a 50% increase in your salaries, coupled with a 50% increase of the salary of the city manager, coupled with a 6% increase on property that we own, that we give permission to the electric company and they charge us a tax, is getting to be a bit of a heavy burden. I said this before. You don't have to increase these charges. You don't have to. You hired a company at certain thousands of dollars to tell you that you can. So you're going to say, well, they say we can, we'll do it. I don't think you're counting up the totals here that are going to be levied on the citizens. That's quite a bit drastic. You a discussion about salaries and benefits. Total benefit salaries to a commissioner adds up to more than the yearly salary of an individual in this town, the basic. Most people, when they get a job, they look at the benefit package. If the benefit package is good, that means the salary can be considered a little bit low. Think of that in consideration when you consider salaries and benefits together. Can I have the CRA? Change of subject. CRA budget. If you look at the CRA budget,
And Mr. Walker, this is not an admonishment by any means, but if you can keep it to questions, and then if you have like just comments about your, your opinions, if there's,
Well,
no, I'm
okay.
not saying you can't
Wanna
make
go
them.
back to that?
Nope,
You wanna
just
go back
let
to
me,
questions?
excuse me, let me finish. If you have comments, like you're, telling us what you feel we should do or not do, if you'll save those to the overall comments at the end, because just questions about the budget right now. But I'm going to let you say anything you want to say in this meeting, just at the right time, okay? Thank you.
well, my question about back in retrogress back, my question was the increase of the charges that you're going to give to this are in the budget. The increases of the salaries are in the budget. My question and my recommendation is, I just said it, you don't have to do this.
Okay, got it.
I said it before. And it can be exemplified by what Mrs. Walker just said. You're taking funds from one to another. You're making money on your enterprise funds.
No enterprise funds going to general.
I know,
Okay. And the stormwater being in debt is a past mistake that present people are having to correct. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Keep going.
you have my subject, my discussion, my recommendations, my questions, and my answers to it. In other words, you want answers to the questions. Okay. All right, concerning the budget for the CRA, I think it's the final page.
It's 76 is where CRA starts in the
Yeah,
budget.
that's the start of the paragraph.
Okay.
I'm looking at the employees. Ah, there it is. On page 80, CRA Director, 60% CRA, 40% Economic Development. Okay? This is new. I don't know where the Economic Development Officer was set up. I don't know what his rules and regulations are. But I get from this that the CRA Director is going to be paid 60% of his salary by the city. And 40%, correction, reverse that. 40% is economic development, it's going to be paid by the city, and 60% is by the CRA. CRA is an autonomous group. It is out of home rule. It is run by the Board of Directors, which is the city commissioners. It is dictated to and adjudicated by the state of Florida. I don't understand where the state of Florida or anybody has decided to put under the CRA Director, the Economic Development Officer. We have an Economic Development Officer in Bay County. We pay $20,000 a year for that. We get nothing for it. If you study that and figure out why the CRA has now split and has an Economic Development Officer, why doesn't the city just have one of their own?
Defer to city manager. I have my own feelings about all of that as well, so I'm going to defer here.
To answer your question, has not been broken out this way. It has been to the point of more of a 50-50 match in the past. I opted to put it in the budget because I want to make sure transparency is there. So 60%, Ben has enough projects going on with the CRA, or the CRA as well does not have enough money to do a lot of projects. So in ample time to make sure that we keep Ben busy, he does help out me with the economic development, going to the Bay EDA meetings, helps me with some of the other properties the city owns, and special projects as far as economic development is concerned. some of the businesses in our area. So part of this is to make sure the citizens of Lynn Haven understand that the CRA is not footing 100% of his bill. They're doing the portion he works each day with. The other portion is the city is paying the other portion to make sure that we're not cheating the CRA. So I wanted to make sure that was transparent. That's the reason you see it this year.
Mayor?
Commissioner Russell had a comment?
And just for the record, it has been that way for several years. It just hasn't showed up on the budget like it should have, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I did not hear that.
I said it has been that way for several years. It just hasn't showed up on the budget. The city has been paying part of his salary for a couple of years now.
Because if I took 100% of Ben's salary and put it in CRA and his benefits and things, and him not doing anything for economic development, I think it'd be a misuse of Ben's time, and he'd run out of things to do. And I think I'd rather the CRA have some money to do some projects within the CRA itself versus, only being able to do one little item or two little items throughout the year. Because the things like, we're doing the parks and things, that's great. Been getting a lot of feedback from that. And I know you on that committee, and I appreciate your time with that committee.
I fully understand that, but it doesn't, I don't want to get into semantics about what Ben does and what he doesn't do and how it is working out here. I understand. When we first, not we, yes, we all set up the CRA, we're supposed to work with the city manager. We're not supposed to be under the direction of the city manager. That has not worked out. No regard to you, sir. This is done to your predecessors. And that's what's caused us a problem. So, for example,
So, Mr. Walker and we have 4 minutes left before we have to start the next meeting. So, and I want to make sure I'm not cutting you off. We can do some more later, but.
I understand,
Okay.
I understand. I didn't want to get into that portion.
Okay.
Just for example, in the budget, it shows you that for 2017, 2018, your mid-year actual and everything is up to, let's say, fiscal year 17, 18, $454,805 that you're going to spend. How much do you have in CRA? You don't have that much. Between the salary and your operating expenses and not doing projects, just operating expenses, you're way up above what you get in income, tip and everything. I believe you've got to look at this budget and understand that you're chipping away at your principal. It took us 10 years to get the $1 million there. We're down to less than $500,000, and we used up $300,000 just in operating expenses. Doesn't equal out. And my parting point, we're going to be coming on with the additional CRA area in the fuel depot, which is, and I'll stud, a grave, grave mistake.
Thank you. At this point, what I'm going to ask you, Mr. Walker, if you have some more questions about the budget, because we're running short of time, if you would make an appointment with the city manager and kind of clear up or ask what you want to ask, and then we have another budget hearing before this is approved, that if you want to say it publicly again, I think maybe at the final hearing, we might need to have a longer workshop so that we can make sure everyone's heard and everybody has plenty of time to say what they need to say, because I don't want to cut anybody off. And that's what I feel like I'm doing, but we're down to the 2 minutes before we start our next meeting. Mr. Walker, you certainly can call me as well with any other concerns, or if you want to expound on any of the ones that you brought up. But we definitely need to have a longer workshop period next time, please. Okay. I want to give an opportunity, though, if there's anybody else in the public that had a question, because I did spend a lot of time with 2 individuals who I greatly admire. Okay, I think that was all. We have about a minute left, and we didn't get to our traffic calming portion. So if you would just review the traffic calming part of this workshop, and then is there any objection if we defer it to the next workshop? Anybody? Is that okay? All right, thank you very much. Then we will conclude this second public hearing and budget workshop, and we'll move to the CRA board meeting with many other items to discuss. Thank you so much.